food security in Africa is so precarious that 1 in 5 people on the continent regularly struggle to find enough to eat in 2023. A new report has raised the alarm about the effect that the rash of global crises over the last few years have had on rising levels of malnutrition all around the world, but particularly in Africa. The Food and Agricultural Organization reckons that globally about 582 million people will be chronically undernourished by 2030, and about a half of them will be on the African continent. Now, with me now for more is Director David Laborde from the FAO. Director David, thank you so much for making time to break this down for us. So first of all, Africa, 54 countries, a vast range of climates, economies, communities, practices. Why has this incredibly diverse continent found it harder than other regions to bounce back from the effect that recent global shocks that we've seen have had on nutrition targets?
So the starting point is, unfortunately, the high level of poverty on the continent, because food insecurity, of course, is accelerated by climate shock, by conflict. But poverty and inequalities is really what created this fertile ground for hunger. Inequality within countries, inequality across countries. And unfortunately, for some countries in Africa, also, you just don't face one shock, but multiple shocks. The same country will be impacted by a drought, by conflict. And last but not least, sometimes they are cross-fertilizing them, meaning a climate shock leads to more competition for water or displacement of population. That will lead to conflict. And that's this unfortunate group of effects, if you want, that put the continent on the front line of hunger.
So when we're talking about hunger, what is the effect of malnutrition beyond the immediacy of not having enough to eat? Does it have an impact on a region or community or country's longer term prospects?
Yes, because the food we eat, the food that mothers eat, the food that kids eat, is about building human capital, good brain, good muscles. And so the food security or the food insecurity of today has a cost in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. And sometimes it's even more complex than what we can guess, meaning that if when you are a kid, you lack food, your probability to be obese later increase. Because if you grew up with a starvation or with a lack of calories, your body trying to accumulate more. So we have really this problem of double burden of malnutrition that is not only today, but tomorrow, and take very different shapes and has a high economic cost actually for countries over time.
So when it comes to Africa specifically, what do you recommend should be the priority in trying to tackle the nutritional crisis the continent's seeing?
So there are two main directions. One is to make sure that there is social safety net that will protect the poor population when these shocks happen, and also to design them in a way that protect rural population that can be in particular impacted by climate shock, but also making sure that healthy diets are provided to the population. And for this, investing in agriculture is key, because Africa is also marked with a low level of agricultural productivity when there is a high potential. And by growing better food, more food, the continent will be better prepared to deal with the shock. The main problem is getting the money to do it.
Thank you so much for that. Director David Laborde from the Food and Agricultural Organization.